morning, everyone. Welcome to FCTV's August 2021 edition of Poetic License. And happy second birthday to Poetic License. We've been in business for 2 years this month. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, FCTV Poetic License. Happy birthday to us. Sending you all bubbles and hearts, and glad to see you all tonight. This is awesome. My name is Donna Scheer, and tonight our suggested theme is hometown. A loving shout out to Alice Kochemba, who hosted last month's open mic. Alice is not only an incredible poet, she is also the co-founder of Poetic License. Sincere thanks to Andrew Richards, the magic man behind the virtual curtain. And thank you, FCTV, for your superior programming. We have The Conversation, which is a program about equity and racial justice. This month is their 12th conversation, and they're looking at tourism, asking the question, where do you find racism in the tourist industry and how can it be addressed? Scott McGann is health agent for Falmouth. You can see him for updates every Friday about COVID-19. If you missed watching the Falmouth Road race in person, you can catch up with the recorded version on FCTV's Channel 13. And there's a heads up about the annual FCTV Rotary auction, which is coming up Sunday, October 3rd from 4 to 8. Online bidding begins 2 weeks before the auction. All the information can be found on fctv.org. You help support 2 worthy Falmouth nonprofits and the businesses that are donating items to be auctioned. If you would like to be a member of our FCTV family, single memberships are still only $30. It's a bargain for all the wonderful things that you get. By joining, you help support FCTV programming, and most of the courses that are offered are discounted for members, and select local businesses will honor your membership card with a 10% discount. All this at fctv.org. All righty, performers, on with the show. I'm going to start us off. Oh, when I read your name, please unmute your mic, repeat your name. Everyone has a 4-minute time slot, and Andrew and I keep track of the time. So I am going to start us off. The theme again suggested is hometown. I've been living in Falmouth since 1987. So I consider this my current hometown. And one of my favorite activities every summer is to go watch the town band play on the harbor at the band shell. So this poem is called Summertown Bandstand. One little star stands a twinkle on the grass, mesmerized by the sounds and lights that flash off the brass and silver. Her knees accordion up and down to the rhythm of the music. Night reels above, but her gaze never wavers from the magic. Music makers on an open-air stage. Other girls twirl, skirts swirling 45 RPMs. Boys chase and march like army guys, pausing only to lift and blow, turning tightly closed fists into blatting bugles. The finale crescendos, and then a slice of silence. Listeners in their cars, like a skein of geese, loudly honk their approval. Patrons sitting on the lawn rise, their applause the thrumming of a sudden hard rain. That tiny one, with stars in her eyes, turns to the tumult. She is wildly delighted in the unshakable belief they are clapping just for her. Thank you. If you've never been, it's a wonderful, the season is now over. I believe this was their last town band for the summer of 2021, but next year we'll see them again. All right, I am so happy to welcome Lynn Vitti. Lynn has recently published a book of poems called Dancing at Lake Montebello, and you can get it through Apprentice House Press. Lynn, welcome tonight.
Thank you. It's good to see you back here, Donna. And I love the summer town and the girl thinking everyone was clapping for her. Haven't we all been there? I'm reading two poems which are from my original hometown, which is Baltimore, Maryland, where I grew up until I went to college. And the first one is called May Day at Hamilton School, number 236. All week on the school bus, there was chatter of the fair, the maypole dance, a white elephant table tended by mothers before a spread of pitchers and teapots, some chipped, some as new as when they sat in Christmas boxes nestled in white tissue. On the playground, there was talk of hot dogs, popcorn, square dancing on the asphalt, fat peppermint sticks in whole lemon halves for sucking up the tart juice through the candy straw. Nickels and quarters tucked into my plastic pocketbook, tangles combed out of my hair. I waited on the front stoop for my father to fetch me. He came home from work at last, and when our Plymouth pulled up at school, people strolled to the streetcar down the block or ambled home. There was no fete, only rows of empty chairs before the bandstand. The ground was strewn with scraps of crepe paper. That night, I dreamed the maypole, the older girls weaving streamers in and out to the music of the sixth grade band. That night, I dreamed the peppermint stick, the sunlight on my father, seated, head tilted back, eyes closed, as if in prayer. And the second poem is called At the Baltimore Museum of Art. Rodin's thinker no longer keeps watch on the front steps of the museum these days. He's moved inside, out of the acid rain. He's all cleaned up, no longer bright green or covered with bird droppings as in days past. At the museum, major renovations are underway, but those Cone sisters, shout out to Clarabelle and Etta and their friend Gertrude Stein, and their collection soothe, challenge, reassure, amuse, persist, endure. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Two beautiful poems. I have to say there's an image in your first one that is so powerful. I could feel my mouth puckering. It's when you talked about the drink being sucked up through the peppermint stick. Never heard of that before, but so powerful. Thank you. And Sue Beth Carlson.
Hello. I just need to pull up a video of a slideshow that I'm going to narrate. My hometown is Earth. The mother tree Bella looks like many trees, but they are all diverse expressions of one big tree. Sitting on its roots, surrounded by a beautiful bell-shaped canopy, reminiscent of 60s love bead curtains, but instead made of leaf-draped branches, I felt like a butterfly in the delightful embrace of its chrysalis, drinking in the nourishment of my green home. While they were away, I recently cared for my neighbor's chrysalis nursery. I began to wonder, where is its hometown? There's a proverb that says, just when the caterpillar thought the world was ending, it turned into a butterfly. Perhaps our hometown is not the place where we grew up, but the world in which we take flight. This first green chrysalis still has the color of nourishment stored from milkweed, but if you look closely, you can see the black markings on the butterfly or imago forming inside. The dark chrysalis is actually clear, so you can see the butterfly almost ready to emerge or eclose. And in this next photo, you'll see to the right the clear and empty chrysalises from which two butterflies have already emerged. I had the great pleasure of letting a recently emerged butterfly out of its human-guided birthing room for its first flight. It stumbled off my finger to the ground and wobbled. I thought of picking it up to help it again, but chose instead to give it a chance to make its own way. And what happened next made me feel like I had just given birth to a child who, right out of the womb, was able to not only walk, but run and jump for joy and leap skyward. In mere seconds, its flapping wings propelled it aloft. It briefly explored around the corner, and then halfway up in the air, it hesitated for a millisecond that only the also visiting hummingbird could understand. And then it soared in a joyous and graceful adagio to land high among the blossoms atop a tall green gathering of trees, partnering in the distance in the dance. In the poem that was born of all that, yes, believe it or not, that was the introduction. The word imago refers to all three of the following. In entomology, it is the final stage of an insect, like a butterfly. In psychoanalysis, it's the unconscious mental image of someone, like a parent, which influences a person's behavior. In spirituality, it is humankind's relation to God on the one hand and all other living creatures on the other. This poem is called Eclose. Gone is the predominance of indigenous ways of living in harmony with our hometown earth. But it is beginning to reemerge, not as in Papawi, more like this. My hometown appeared depleted of resources and of illusion on the day I left. It turned from the green shelter of its beginnings into a clear wrapper showing a fully formed imago ready to burst forth, awake, unfold, and fly free. In many ways, we are all now that chrysalis about to eclose. We each see things come clear and break free in our own way and time. Eclose is such an ambivalent word for emergence. But for this phase in the evolution of our world, perhaps it's fitting. We emerge while staying close to ourselves at the same time. It is a time for balancing having a life with being alive. In case you're wondering, in that poem, there's an indigenous Anishinaabe word I learned from the book Braiding Sweetgrass. It means the force which causes mushrooms to push up from the earth overnight, which I interpret as life force energy that emerges overnight. Papawi. And I'm just going to stop my screen share. And I just wanted to share one more thing with you, and that's an upcoming event in Chatham. Pilgrim's Landing, and their website is pilgrimslandingcapecod.org, is sponsoring a guided global giving labyrinth walk on Monday, September 13th at 5 p.m. at Chase Park, where the windmill is. It's just beyond the windmill. And we're going to walk for those experiencing crisis around the globe, especially those in Afghanistan and Haiti. There'll be an opportunity for donations in a basket, or you can donate later on the Pilgrim's Landing site if you want. And Brenda Jane Meehan is going to play her soothing deep alto flute, along with Charlie Cole, who's going to play the dulcet tones of his dulcimer. Everybody's welcome. It's a free event. And I think that's all I need to say. Shattuck Place is the street. Yeah, you can easily miss it if you haven't been there before. And you take a left on Shattuck Place, and then the lot is right in there. Thanks.
Sue, that was so wonderful. The photos were incredible. And, you know, I didn't know if you had started your poem in the beginning.
I know.
Some of my favorite images were in the intro that you did.
I actually knew you were going to say that, because my prose is very poetic too, and my introductions are longer than my poems, so it is hard to tell them apart.
My hometown is Earth. Oh, yes, we can all say yes to that. But the mariposa is my favorite word, but it was just Spanish for butterfly.
I know that. Me too. I've had it in my life for a long time. I've used it for a lot of things. That's interesting.
But the 60s love bead curtains that you had described the tree, it was just perfect.
That's all I could think of when I saw it.
Thank you so much. All right, well, let's see. Abbie and Katie have not arrived, so Merryn Rutledge, my friend, you are up next.
Thank you so much. Again, my name is Merryn Rutledge. And before I begin, I'd just like to say that I received word yesterday that a poem of mine will be in the Mass Poetry Series Hard Work of Hope on September 8th, if you're interested in that. For me, hometown is more suggestive than definitive. Suburban Washington, D.C., where I grew up, is anywhere, nowhere without a core. So for my hometown, I've chosen two places: a one-street dead town where my grandmother lived in Western Arkansas, vacation destination every summer of my childhood. And for my second poem, my other grandparents' farm, also in Arkansas, land of my ancestors. So if you don't know the South, here goes. Carnal desire. Little girl in a frying sun, sandal soles burned bacon on a sidewalk straight as pixie sticks from grandma's house to the branch general store. Step over a crack, don't break your mother's back, tuck your toes, 'cause snake might be sliding out of the ditch. This side of the highway, freight trucks growl and charge and heave hot wind. Dust your tongue chalky. Don't topple, girl. Got to get to town. Not much of one. A row of wooden storefronts, paint long gone and mostly empty now. Climb 3 steep steps to the pocked plank porch. Tobacco wad spit stained. Go to tippy toes to grab the handle of the wheezy screen. Blink in the dark, cool inside, the long curved face of a glass case, flush with a whole firmament of candy. Mars bars, Milky Way, Butterfingers, bit of honey, almond joy. Stretch a skinny arm to the man and let go of a sweaty nickel. Peel the crinkly wrapper strip by strip like a ripe banana. Take it slow now, back to grandma's in tiny bites, smeary sweet lip licks, make it last all the way along with a feeling anything good could happen under this cloudless sky. And this poem, Belonging, was first published in Pudding magazine. Mom, my aunts, and grandma put on flower sock bonnets and boots and carry pails galump toward the garden, two abreast down the tractor's tracks. Heat chases the morning cool, so I wait in the house until I hear the chain on the well bucket jingle as it drops, and then water drumming the bottoms of the galvanized tubs where the women rinse cucumbers and beans, dunk potatoes and carrots lumpy with loam, and draw fresh water to cool the melons. The women chat as they scrub, snap, shell, until the middle of the morning when grandma makes her percolator purr and we breathe in the earthy coffee smell. I get a mug like the grown-ups, only mine comes pale with cream. After dinner, the men will pitch horseshoes under the old walnut trees where there might be a breeze. They'll split the cool melons with their jackknives, and we'll stoop over the smiling wedges as juice runs down our chins. And after, nobody cares if you wipe your mouth with the back of your hand. Then a grown-up will say, I believe these are even sweeter than last year's, Mama and Daddy. And everybody nods their head. Thank you.
Oh, Merryn, you took me to Ohio with those poems in my grandparents' house. That is so awesome. You were the queen of alliteration in both of these poems. I love a couple of the lines that I absolutely adored. Straight as pixie sticks, and the sweaty nickel when she went to the candy store. Just very, very, the images are very evocative of the Midwest. It's so, so wonderful. Good memories. Thank you. Oh, I see Abbie O is here. Yay! How are you, my friend? Would you like to go now? Okay, can you unmute your mic, darling?
All right. Hello, my name is Abbie O. I would like to share this poem on my hometown. I hope you enjoy this poem I wrote. Here's how it goes. This is where we sleep at night, where we live. This is our life, because this is where we can call home, where we can find shelter, where we can write poetry, where we can live. And memories, all the memories of hometown will give you. Think about all the adventures you have had in your hometown.
So lovely. And I am so happy that you continue to write poems. It just warms my heart and soul, darling. Nice to see you tonight. All right, John Jackson.
There we go. Unmute. Okay. First things first. Limericks of protest. It has been a very, very quiet month for limericks of protest for personal reasons, which I'll get into in a moment. There it is. In the up-to-date variant lexicon, alpha, beta, and gamma have come and gone. You feel we've been delta, bad deal with delta? Just wait till we meet epsilon. Okay, so here's the big news, and it really works out well for this month's theme. Leaving home, almost take it for granted. since as infant we first were decanted. It's part of our lives and how one survives, not uprooted, but rather transplanted. Hometown. When I was a kid, we moved around a lot, and I never really felt like anywhere was much of hometown, except possibly the reason I'm wearing this grubby t-shirt. I was going to change and look nice, but I realized that this here is a nice little lead-in. Toby Island, a small island off of Monument Beach, just north of Falmouth. Went there every summer all my life until about 5 years ago. Problem with a shared summer family house is during the summer you have to share it with your family. So my wife and I decided to look for a house and ended up with one in North Falmouth. That is becoming hometown. Monument Beach, yeah, it's a lovely place, but as far as town, there hasn't been much since Gooch's closed. That was a long, long time ago. Where I could get penny candy with a sweaty nickel. And so today was the last piece of moving stuff out of Groton. So I wanted to read something for you. We live here now. 6 years ago, my son Clark and the love of his life moved to Portland, Oregon. Early this summer, he alone with his young dog Fig meandered their way back east, camping, staying with friends, hotels. Clark tells that Fig was anxious to go back home. He made a ritual telling her each night at each new place, "It's okay, Fig, we live here now." My wife, Ellen, and I sold our Groton home of 20 years. At 2:46 p.m. Thursday, August 12, 2021, the deed was finally done, literally done. A week before, a moving van and 4 burly guys moved our stuff out. The final stop was our home in Falmouth. There's a term in the U.S. Army, blivet. It means 10 pounds of something in a 5-pound bag. We have a week to restore some order to this blivet-filled house to make it a welcome home for our roommate and mother. She broke a hip the day before the moving van, is now residing at JML Rehab here in town. Her homecoming mustn't be a minefield of boxes. Silver lining to the dark cloud of the broken hip, Ellen could leave Falmouth to help clean up the Groton house. Also, she could stay an extra day or two and help unpack and arrange the second stop of the moving van. I've taken an apartment near where I work, also a blivet of furniture and stuff. The proceeding was written about 10 days ago. Mother-in-law has returned to share our home. Adjustments are being made. The apartment is getting closer to reasonable every day. Ellen even came up an extra day this week. I figure she's trying to send a message that she is here too. Any visitors will know that I'm married or maybe figure that I'm gay. Ellen loves plants. She says, my apartment needs a plant to make it a home. So she let me keep the big Schefflera I had managed to keep alive during the COVID year. She bought me a plant, something to tolerate the low light in the corner of the room, reasonably drought tolerant. She bought a nice ficus, a fig tree. It's okay, Fig. We live here now.
Awesome. I hope God in heaven above, I hope you are wrong about Epsilon coming after Delta. It was funny, but not really. And 2 new words tonight, friends. I don't know about you, but I never heard it closed before from Sue, and blivet from our friend John Jackson. So thanks for the vocab.
No problem.
All right, Patricia Austin.
Hi, my name is Patricia Austin, and I don't feel I have a hometown either. So this is a look at hometown from a different point of view, maybe. glimpsing history, religious freedom. Nearly 500 years ago, 487 to be exact, King Henry VIII of England imposed religious autocracy on all his subjects. In petulant, narcissistic counteraction to the Pope's refusal to grant him an annulment from the Queen, Catherine of Aragon, blocking his desired remarriage, the king divorced the Pope and the entire Catholic Church, establishing his own, the Church of England, with he himself as the head. He henceforth demanded his loyal subjects must now be loyal to him as their voice of God. Many said no and were jailed and executed or forced to flee the country. In the reign of Henry VIII, who died at age 55 of natural causes, the king had executed about 72,000 people. The separatists, known by us as the Pilgrims, said no. They met in secret, carrying on their believed intended way of life. But in 1607, their secret was exposed. Many separatists were jailed, executed, or with help fled the country to Holland. They lived alongside many other Protestants, Protestants. All were railing against the then current corruption of the Catholic Church. The separatists were railing against Henry and his new church and the Catholic Church. For over a decade, they lived in exile, but with a growing belief. They needed to find a home of their own, where they could establish a religious way of life. The song of the New World was beginning to resonate in their hearts. So in 1619, they returned to England, now ruled by King James, and obtained permission to travel to the Virginia colony. They booked passage on the Mayflower, a merchant vessel created to deliver large quantities of wine, not people. The ship had sailed to Europe and as far as Norway, but never on the ocean. When the Pilgrims boarded the Mayflower, they fully expected to be the only passengers. But unbeknownst to them, the captain, for purely economic reasons, had also booked many other people, all of whom wanted to get away from something and go to the New World. The separatists called them the strangers. So in 1620, the Mayflower, carrying the Pilgrims, the strangers, and its crew, embarked upon the arduous journey across 3,000 miles of ocean to the New World, their destination, Virginia. However, lack of navigational equipment, which no one had at that time, and lack of navigational knowledge or experience, and lack of knowledge of the ocean itself and its spurious surprise splashes had rendered them profoundly off course. When they finally spotted land and dropped anchor, they were on Cape Cod. The town of Easton on Cape Cod has a beach called First Encounter Beach. This is the spot where the Mayflower first landed. It was here that the Pilgrims, the strangers, and the crew first encountered the Wampanoag, a tribe of 60,000 natives living on the Cape. For 5 weeks, they lived among the Wampanoags at what is now Provincetown. In their tiny scout boat, the shallop, they tried to find a place to settle. And sure enough, possibility emerged. A place with fresh water, land enough to cultivate and plant crops, room to build houses, build a settlement, build a hometown marked by a gigantic rock. So the Mayflower set sail northward from the Cape to the place now known as Plymouth. In 1620, when the Mayflower landed on Cape Cod, there were 60,000 Wampanoag living on the Cape. 4 years later, there were 20,000 native Wampanoag. 40,000 had died of diseases brought by the passengers of the Mayflower. As we look back from 400 years in their future, seeing what they knew, what they didn't know, and the consequences of their actions, will our future look back on us at this time, knowing what we know, what we don't know of our own new unknown disease, and what we refuse to know? Assuming there will be a future society in 400 years, looking back on us. It is 2020 is the 400th anniversary of the Mayflower landing in the New World, of the Pilgrims coming to Massachusetts, actually what is now Massachusetts. But it is amazing to think about what we don't know and what will the consequences of that be. So.
Thank you, Patricia. There was a lot of information in there that I've not heard of before. Nice to piece things together about the settling. And I never realized what first encounter beach meant. That was also very interesting to put that into place too. So thank you so much. Jackson Gillman. Jackson, would you mind starting out by telling us about your whales, tails, and
sales.
And sales?
Yeah. That's held every Friday morning at 10 o'clock for families at the New Bedford Whaling National Historic Park. We've been on Zoom for the past year, and hopefully we'll be in person again starting September 10th. And if not, we'll keep Zooming until we can get back together. And New Bedford figures into this. I just have one short poem that somewhat relates to hometown. New Bedford's not my own hometown, but I've been working there for 8 years, and New Bedford was the hometown of the whaling industry for a really long time. And it was, during its heyday, probably the richest town in the world because it provided the oil that lit up the world until electricity was invented, and then they discovered very precipitously what is called, what we're also going to enter, post-peak oil. They experienced it a long time ago. We're going to experience too eventually. Anyhow, there's a line in the poem that's called about trying times. And if you're familiar at all with whaling, you'll know that it's when you try the blubber, boil it down to oil. So there's a double entendre there. And there was an anniversary for the New Bedford Whaling National Historic Park a few years ago, and they had a poetry slam for that. And so I was the only time I ever won a poetry slam, but this is one of the poems I wrote for that event. And it's called Post-Peak Oil, a poem for New Bedford. Those were dark times when fleets of barbed barks set sail in the seven seas to slaughter our Leviathan cousins. It is moot to question, was loot from that massacre worth the oceans of bloodletting? After all, harvest from those killing sprees literally lit up much of the world. Gratefully, those trying days are over, and other oil now fuels much of our ever hungrier grid. But 150 years later, we humans still navigate dark deals to exact that oil. And now it is not moot to wonder, is the loot from continual plundering worth the fouling of air, land, and water? Well, may the sun and wind prevail, help light our way to a more sustainable future.
A well-deserved win there for the Poetry Slam. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I love New Bedford. Thank you, Jackson.
My pleasure.
Oh, my friend Linda Steele is here tonight. She has written a book called Finding the Writer Within. Last week, she gave a lecture at the West Falmouth Library about it. And we welcome her tonight to Poetic License.
Hello, thank you. Actually, I tried to make it a party more than a book talk because I just wanted it to be fun. And it was a little, we talked, but it was also kind of a fun party. So I think home felt very often, sometimes unstable and often tenuous, except I had a lovely community of friends that I've always been involved with. So it says my internet connection is unstable. I hope not. But where I feel like home changes over time. And I have found personally that home feels very much, I feel most at home at Great Sippawisset Marsh. It's a place that I walk every day. And I wrote a poetry book called Tending the Marsh. So I thought I would read that, two small poems, very short poems from there. One, it has home in the title called Walking Each Other Home. And then the second one is even shorter. It's called That's How It Is in the Summer. And for me, the close connection of an exchange with another person that's expressed in the first poem to me is about home. And in the second poem, it's we're so at the end of summer, but the heat has really got me thinking of summer. So both, here's the first one. It's called Walking Each Other Home. And thank you for listening. Okay. Walking each other home. I wandered lonely until I found you here. You taught me the lovely days won't come to me, that I have to learn to walk towards them. We walked quietly looking for the egrets as they stood majestic. We listened to the wind when it talked and to the silence because it too spoke. I listened for the beating of your heart. I asked about the beating heart of the ego. You said the problem with the world today is we don't talk anymore. I will talk to you. Just then, we watched the egret rise up and glide away. We carried on for 3 more miles until we reached the coal bench and held each other close. Even though we were far away on the path, it felt as if you had already walked me home. So that's the first one. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, so thank you. And here's the second one. This is called That's How It Is in the Summer. I just want to show you, I have these lovely herons in the book. There's a little image of a heron on this page. So I wanted to show you the image to go along with this, because you'll understand he plays a role in the poem. Okay, and I feel very close to the heron and the egrets. So, okay, that's how it is in the summer. In the winter, the herons hunker down low in the cold snow for survival. In deep summer, they lie when the tourists take over. They turn green, camouflaged out in thick grass. When the light changes or it's a misty day, they color shift to a grayish or blue hue. They watch the visitors come and go from afar and listen to all the secrets whispered across the marsh. They tuck them away for when the cold returns. Thank you. Thank you.
Lyrical, lovely, great Sipawasset Marsh. What a fabulous place that is to go. Lots of inspiration. Awesome. Thank you, Linda,
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Christine Laurie, welcome back this month. Good to see you. Christine has published a recent book of poetry called Her Poems, Kittens and Cats.
Stop it.
There. Now, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right. I'm Christina Laurie, and I said this is the first week I've really been feeling normal. I've been fighting COVID most of the month. So I'm delighted to be back into the throes of life. Hometown, for me, hometown is Falmouth. I mean, I've been here for 21 years, which is not my whole life, but there's a special place that particularly is homing for me, more this summer, I think, than most, but it's my back porch. And I wrote this poem called A Summer Evening as I was sitting at my table, having just finished my supper, and just sipping my drink and watching what was going on the other side of my screen at the bird feeder. So this is it. A summer evening. As the downy woodpecker dat-a-tat-tats at the old oak in the distant forest, a squirrel, quite red-coated, dines beneath the feeder, periodically standing on hind legs to check the surroundings. At the feeder, a female cardinal lands, gracefully pecking at the seed. From the woods, her mate, red as sunset, flies to the branch above, keeping watch for his orange-beaked mate. A sparrow lands, pushing out the cardinal, who flies to the forest, followed by her hastening mate. Soon a blue jay lands and feeds. The squirrel, too busy to notice, continues to feed on the parched ground. A red-headed woodpecker discovers the seed stash, but when the cardinal pair returns with another female in tow, he takes off into the woods, seeking another hollow tree. As the sun fades into dusk, bird songs fill the forest, bringing a symphony of voices to the rising moon. And once again, the wood creatures begin their night watch. Thank you.
Christina, another bird lover. If you're like me, when we had to take our feeders down, it was a sad, sad day, but I understand that they may be changing that edict, so.
They have. Mine are already back up again.
Are they really? Okay, well, that's good. That's the good news.
Yep.
Thank you so much. I loved all the birds you named in that poem.
Yeah, they were all there.
Well, I'm going to close the evening. Can you believe we're done? I can't believe it.
Yeah.
This is a poem about my original hometown, Chicago. And I lost my twin brother last month, and it's been a hard time trying to, I want to write about him, but I haven't been able to. This is a picture of my twin and I in Chicago saying our nightly prayers. Anyway, I was able to finish a poem about the sounds of our childhood, and it's called First Music. Red vinyl record captures brother and me plashing bath bubbles, our voices bright as a pocket full of coins. At the Jewish bakery, sweet tinkle of bell melds with the smells of rye bread and sugar. Arthur Godfrey and a ukulele wisecrack on the radio, while pixelated in black and white, Kukla, Fran, and Ollie shrill falsetto against low-pitched loony. A cuckoo clock wheezes on the hour. The seesawing squeak and squawking creak of a swing in the schoolyard, swinging so high, I can hear the angels sing, Jesus loves the little children. Slow, throaty ohm of the Presbyterian pipe organ, pulsating my vital organs. Gospel music jumps up under the Baptist roof. Beneath shagbark hickory trees, Ohio uncles are picking and plucking, a rural picnic. Great roar of grandpa's snores rattles the china. Daddy oompas on the baritone. Sizzle of bacon, hydraulic whoosh of the pantry door, thwunk of golf balls on the rooftop, and over cityscape pavement, my shush of roller skates with a chick at the lines in between. After Now I Lay Me, prayers to the man upstairs, the neighborhood sighs. We close our eyes, lulled by the sounds of a distant traffic lullaby. And those are good memories from my original hometown. Thank you, guys. All right. Well, this edited performance will be shown on FCTV's channel 13, as well as the YouTube channel once it's been edited. Like I said, email any thoughts and suggestions to Andrew at fctv.org. And if you would like to be a performer, this is a wonderful family to join in that respect. Please sign up for the next Poetic license, which will be on Thursday, September 23rd. And the suggested theme for September will be school days, spelled D-A-Z-E. Thank you again, Andrew. Performers, thank each and every one of you for being skilled and fearless. So until we meet again, be well and shine on.
Bye.
Yay.